fans who no doubt will be saying hello, I love you to the latest owner coming through the door with a big bag of money.
Yeah, those of you who rang us in about new ways of watching football, if we have to go behind closed doors, don't fret. We're going to get back to you and take some more calls later in the show. 08717 223344 is that number. But there are other stories we must move on to for the time being. And I guess the biggest one, in a normal world, the biggest story of the week would not be when football's coming back or how, but the idea that Newcastle United, that huge club up there in the northeast of England, whose fans regard themselves as the most long-suffering of any in big-time football, are being taken over by new owners. Simon, there's two issues here, I guess. You can take a very positive view what this will do for Newcastle United, and we also need to discuss the actual owners themselves, because I have to say I was a little bit no, not a little bit. I was very disappointed the other day when another programme did a phone-in and asked Newcastle fans if they were entirely happy with being owned by a family whose regime is undemocratic, is autocratic, and is often downright brutal. And they couldn't find three people to say, yeah, it's not so great, is it? It was just looking through the eyes of, we must get more money so we can compete with Manchester United. I hated it, I've got to be honest. And I've got an idea about what I want to say about that a little later on. But first of all, we are just, let's get it.
Well, isn't it the ultimate irony, Danny? You know, we sit here on a sports platform and often apologise for talking about sports because we get to see people tweeting in saying, stop talking about bloody sports and money when people are dying. And then you can't get a football club's fans to understand that not everything is about money and not everything is steeped in how much money a football club can be given by a group of individuals that, let's say, don't have the most palatable of backgrounds.
Well, let me get it off my chest first, and then we'll talk about what's going to happen, how the takeover will conclude, and what it will mean, Simon, for Newcastle United and for the others who fancy themselves members of the Big Six. Look, we've seen other people take over football clubs whose background we may not be entirely in agreement with. The owners of Manchester City, and I'm going to say it openly, you know, their extended family run their state in a way that not many of us would find very palatable. Political opponents are not tolerated. Women's rights are not respected, and so on. And yet they've done a fantastic job PR-wise with the so-called campus around what used to be the Eastern Stadium and all the rest of it. But the idea that another of our great football clubs is going to be taken over by one of these investment companies, which are really PR companies, for image launderers, for these regimes in that part of the world, but I'm not going to say specifically that part of the world. Simon, here's a simple thing. One of the things in the fit and proper owners test I would put, people who are the result of and operate from countries that aren't proper democracies, I'd strike them out of the record straight away. Democracy is under enough attack around the world from kind of cyber undermining, from nationalist and occasionally populist movements. The idea that we should be selling off national treasures to people who have absolutely no accountability of what they do either in their own country or abroad is anathema to me.
No, I agree, Danny. Sports washing, and this is what it is something that, you know, is unpalatable. But listen, Danny, the idea that we can stop people from buying businesses because of their ethnicity or their background, then we'll be stopping.
Nothing to do with their ethnicity. Nothing to do with their ethnicity.
Well, okay, their background. All right.
Yep, sure.
Then ultimately, you know, we would sell. London Stock Exchange was up for sale recently. You know, Harrods has been bought. Every business is up for sale, and I think it's very difficult to restrict who buys it. Otherwise, Danny, they'll just buy it through a different vehicle that will supersede that removal of the opportunity for them to buy something.
Simon, in the case of football, buying it through another vehicle doesn't allow you the same PR benefits that you will get from owning Newcastle United.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's self-defeating.
That's very true. That's very true.
It's not normal business, is it?
No, yes, very true, Danny.
No, sure. Anyway, that's my six halfpence on it. Well, and I wish English football wasn't acceding to this in quite the same way. And I know what the argument is. Of course, we want to buy the best players and all the rest of it. I'm going to say it on air. Sod that. And I remember football in this country, it didn't have the best players, but it had brilliant football, brilliant culture. The fans, violence notwithstanding, were largely fantastic people to be around. And I just don't want this to happen. However, I am King Canute here, arguing against the waves coming in to the shore. Tell us how close this is to being done, Simon, and what it will mean for Newcastle United to have what I imagine are unlimited funds.
Well, I don't know how it can give them unlimited funds, because what's going to have to happen, I know that people are going to say that with the COVID-19 crisis and what's happening in football is going to be relaxing of the financial fair play rules, but Newcastle are only going to be able to operate at a certain level given the nature of financial fair play. So the window that to some extent Roman Abramovich snuck through, and to a lesser degree Sheikh Mansour snuck through, is not necessarily going to be as widely open for Newcastle. They'll be able to buy bigger players and spend more money. They'll be able to spend 50, 100 million pounds that Mike Ashley didn't want to spend during his tenure. But the idea that they're going to be able to go, right, hang on a second, we're going to spend £1 billion, I think is naive of Newcastle fans to think that's the case. I think that they will be able to keep the ambitions of whether it's my friend Steve Bruce or it's the bringing back of Rafa Benitez, because
your other friends, hooray!
Amanda Stavely, I've got a friend, yeah. Amanda Stavely, whose relationship that was forged, I believe, with Rafa Benitez when she first had a swing, Amanda Stavely being at the front of this consortium that's buying it with the Saudi Arabian consortium and the Reuben brothers, and let's look at that. There's a tie-up there, and if we're vilifying this regime, it doesn't seem to stop our elite businessmen wanting to be in a partnership with them. Look, the challenge for Newcastle is that you have a group of owners that are coming in with a regime that is not particularly well received. You've made a very salient point. Ollie Holt in the Mail on Sunday wrote us a really strong point. On one hand, he was talking about the awful image of Mike Ashley and him disappearing into the ether, and the replacement with a regime that no one should be happy having own their football club. But as you have rightly pointed out, Danny, people don't care. They care when it suits the narrative, but they don't care when it doesn't. If it's someone else's football club, Newcastle fans will probably have an opinion on it. If it's their football club, they won't have an opinion on it. And of course, if we get into the territory of having a balanced perspective with no dog in the fight or skin in the game, we'll get, brutalised by Newcastle fans if we dare say anything about their football club. But look, Newcastle fans, forever and a day, for the 13 years that Mike Ashley's been there, for a variety of reasons, and a lot of them of his own making, have not had any relationship with their owner, and in fact had a very destructive one. They have a new set of owners coming in that will no doubt have ambition at their centre. They're not buying a Premier League football club because it's Newcastle United specifically. They're buying a Premier League football club because the Premier League brand represents a huge opportunity for them to get a decent football club with a decent fan base, with a decent amount of energy. It's a challenging football club because nothing changes the geography, Danny. People still go to clubs like Newcastle with respect to Newcastle and find their way to other football clubs, even in their pomp, even when they had Kevin Keegan, and even when they were the entertainers and the club that everybody wanted to watch. There was still a challenge for players to either go there or, more likely, stay there for a period of time. It is undoubtedly a great football club. As far as football clubs, when you close your eyes and think of football clubs and what they mean to a community, Newcastle United is one of those clubs that you understand what it means to its community. But as far as a brand, a football club, its only recognition to the outside world is its membership to the Premier League. Now, these guys coming in and giving the Newcastle faithful this idea that somehow they're going to be competing with Sheikh Mansour and with Roman Abramovich, I'm not sure they're going to be able to. I know there's going to be a relaxation of financial fair play merely to bridge the gap of what people have lost, not for people to bridge that gap